Imagine you've been in lockdown for a while now. You're not quite there mentally and life just feels dull. You can't go out, and the only place you can truly interact in for years is your house. But then you discover something. A magical world of fantasy with beautiful landscapes and compelling characters. You can't take your eyes off of it, and from the outset, it draws you in. Genshin Impact is a game developed by the Chinese company HoYoverse, formerly known as MiHoYo in the year 2020. On a side note, can we talk about MiHoYo's slogan back then? What do you mean Tech Otaku save the world? I digress. As soon as you launch the game, you're received with an engaging cinematic that shows not only interesting characters but an intriguing story too. You're allowed to choose a twin to play as, and thus your journey as the traveler begins in the world of Tibet. 500 years later, the traveler wakes up and their mission from then on is to unravel Tibet's secrets and find their lost twin. In its open world, you're introduced to many characters that will join you and help you in your adventure. Each of them unique and interesting in their own way. Oh, yeah, and also it's a gacha game. I started playing Genshin Impact a bit after its release, when the only nations available were Mondstadt and Liyue. So it's no wonder that, for me, those are Genshin's golden days, but I'm surely just biased. What initially started as me wanting to entertain myself, later became an obsession, but you know what, let's not get ahead of ourselves right now, shall we? Mondstadt, in my opinion, is the best nation of them all, and all for one simple reason, which I am sure I don't really need to mention. You know, I may have a small crush on Kaya, but seriously, if you know me from social media, you know about my rather unhealthy obsession with him. But can we appreciate him for a bit? He has such a good and interesting character design that just by looking at him, you can tell a lot about his personality and his story. And it's not just Kaya. A lot of the early characters are like that too. Their designs were well planned and had meaning behind them. Save for some fan service choices, but honestly, I don't feel really upset about fan service itself. We've seen from games like Marvel Rivals that fan service can be good, if it's done right. Naturally, there were some flaws to the characters as well, even in the early stages, but because the cast was still rather short, they weren't as notorious. One thing that I've noticed multiple times is that these characters seem to have a very one-dimensional personality. They're either always sleepy, always drunk, or very cold and mysterious. And it's not really a bad thing to use character tropes. The problem is when the whole character is that trope and nothing else. And that happens a lot in Genshin Impact, especially with female characters for some reason. As I was saying, I really enjoyed Mondstadt. It was a simple story, but it didn't really need to be complex. It was our introduction to Teyvat and our role in it, and I believe it achieved that perfectly, introducing us to only a small group of characters that were well developed during the quest, giving the player the chance to grow attached to them and to the world they live in. I know I'm not alone when I say that Mondstadt feels like home to many of us. Then came Liyue. In my opinion, it's very similar to Mondstadt when it comes to sentimental value and story-wise. Although it was a longer quest and had some parts that, in my opinion, could have been skipped for a simpler storytelling's sake, which happens a lot in Genshin Impact. They like to add a lot of text that sometimes is a bit unnecessary. I still enjoyed the storyline, the characters, and the things we discovered about the world in Liyue. So it's safe to say that my love for this game was growing with the seconds when I started playing it. But it wasn't just that, the gameplay was good too. In my opinion, I know a lot of people who might disagree with me on this one, but me not being a dedicated gamer, I had never played a game like this before. Being able and encouraged to switch between characters and build strong teams to become stronger as a unit was compelling to me. Learning about elemental reactions, team synergy, and all of that was honestly good fun for me. I remember staying up at nights reading about the mechanics of the gameplay and working on plans to make strong teams while keeping my main objective in mind, which was making Kaya the strongest character possible. And I'll be honest, he got me through the abyss a bunch of times. It was fun. It kept me engaged, learning, challenging myself, and looking into the lore, the website, the leaks even. And then there was the gacha. I don't really know what to say about the gacha. In a way, like all players, I would prefer it if it didn't exist. But I can also see how it would change the game drastically and probably even ruin it. At the end of the day, the want to get new characters and max them out, it's what keeps players engaged with events and quests. But if I had to say something, I'd say that it definitely was a pain in the butt to have to grind an event for a whole week just to get 60 primos. Mind you, one pull at the banner was 160 primos. In general, it was a bit hard to farm them, especially with banners not being all that long. This might be a controversial opinion, but I got my first reality hit on how Genshin Impact wasn't actually perfect when Inazuma came out. Even though the visuals and the scenery were absolutely mind-blowing, the story was a bit, dumb. In my opinion, I won't go too deep into it because it's not that kind of video. I just didn't like how much of the quest was about Daiden Shogun shutting her whole nation down and practically torturing a bunch of people without any actual good reason, and how her redemption arc was just so unjustified and poorly written. Not to mention this was the first instance in which the quest was, for the most part, reading walls and walls of texts and names and characters that weren't actually relevant. It just became a bit boring. But I looked past it because it also brought to the game some of my favorite characters and storylines, such as Kazuha's. After that, the next big quest was Sumeru, and this might be yet another controversial opinion, but I actually enjoyed Sumeru quite a bit. It suffers from the same problems of massive amounts of irrelevant text, but looking past that, Sumeru has, in my opinion, some of the best characters in the game, as well as some of the best lore. And then, the straw that broke the camel's back for me and for a bunch of other people, for what I can see, was Natlan. It might be worth mentioning that I'm Mexican, and I was really excited for Natlan's release since I started playing, because in Latin America we have such a grand culture and many things that could be implemented so well into a fantasy game, and the result was kind of underwhelming, to say the least. Even before the actual release of the nation, we had the character leaks and announcements, and from there, I think my love for the game was hindered because of... why is everything like a retro game in a fantasy game? And also, why do they think that our nation is just dinosaurs and games? And why does the Archon have a motorcycle? It's just weird to me because we have so many deities and gods, and I know it's not just based in Latin America, I know it's also based in Africa, I believe. And it's just like they took cultures with such a rich, culture, and then they just made it into a retro game style cyberpunk kind of thing that doesn't make a lot of sense and doesn't really fit the style of the game itself. Because are you going to tell me that in months that they're still probably using those old age toilets, and in Natlan they have dinosaurs and motorbikes? It's just weird. And well, a lot of people are also complaining about the character designs, which I agree with for the most part. They just don't feel like Genshin Impact characters anymore, aside from a couple of them, like maybe Mualani and Yansan. But aside from them, most of the characters I see, and I don't really know if they're for Honkai Star Rail or for Genshin Impact or for any other of those games whatsoever. But, I stopped playing when I finished, I think, the first quest in Natlan. It just wasn't fun for me anymore. I didn't really find the purpose in that story quest, and in the characters, they just didn't seem, appealing to me in a way. And it just seemed like it, in a way, erased everything that Genshin Impact had done so far. And it was a bit sad because, again, I was really excited to see Latin America portrayed in Genshin Impact, but it just didn't work out, I suppose. I am still looking forward to see how the game ends. We're one nation away from finishing the 7 nations. I don't know if I'll ever go back to playing. I probably will, because it's still a fun game to play at the end of the day, and Kaya is there, so I can't just break up with the game. But for now, I'm taking a break from it, and honestly, I'm just kind of waiting to see what happens, because so far, I'm not really enjoying the new stuff. I didn't even play Fontaine. That's why it's not in this video, because I wasn't interested in it, in a way. I know Fontaine is good. I've seen people say that Fontaine is really good. I just didn't feel compelled to try it. That's my opinion so far. I'll see where the game goes, and hopefully it redeems itself in a way after Natlan. Maybe Natlan was just a bump. But I don't know. I would like for you guys to tell me what you think. Tell me your opinion on the game. If you have a different opinion to mine, I would love to hear that, because I really want to see how the community is doing. I would appreciate it if you guys subscribed, commented, or liked this video. I'm trying to grow this community because I really enjoy making videos. And also, I would like to make a quick announcement that I have open commissions. So if you're interested, please DM me on Instagram or TikTok, or you can just leave a comment under here and I'll link you to, I don't know, my email or something. Anyways, that's all for now, and see you next time.